A special council meeting Wednesday, 19th of January. First on the agenda is to consider filling the vacancy for the zoning administrator. We did interviews for 2 candidates a week ago, and I think we tasked the staff to look into background checks. Go ahead, Mike.
You tasked us to follow up on references. Any offer would be subject to a background check if necessary. So I did follow up on the references that were provided. There were 4 of them. I spoke with 2 of them that responded. Both references were positive.
For both candidates, everything?
For both candidates, yes.
Okay.
Can you kind of go over what you discussed with them so that we have,
Well, as you
some
know,
idea?
Sure. As you know, when you call for references, there's limited information that is shared. So I asked them, what kind of employee were they? Things like, did they show up on work in time? Were they respected by the public? Were there any issues that we should be aware of? Things like that. None of those instances came up. All comments were positive.
Thank you.
Okay, so what do we do now? Do we just jump into a vote on? what we
Was that
wanna
for
do?
both applicants, right?
Both applicants,
Okay.
yes. So to answer your question, Mayor, on what do you do now? What you have before you you have an internal candidate and an external candidate. Both are qualified for the position. Both interviewed well, and both can do the work. So you really need to decide as a council whether you want to promote from within or you want to go outside the organization. And again, both candidate references came back positive, and both are well qualified and can do the work.
One candidate has twice the experience though, right? One's 15 years and one's 8.
Well, I guess if I'm going to make any comment about it, our objective, we know that we need 2 people in the Planning and Zoning Commission. We've already got 1. So I don't know what we'd be gaining by promoting within, for one thing. And I think the other candidate has definitely had a good interview. Does anybody else have any comments to make about it?
I think with respect to the interviews, an observation was, I think the internal candidate responded more quickly and more concise. The external candidate wasn't as quick with the answers.
My comment is that places I've worked before, employees I've had, I've tried to promote from within if I can, because I think it's good for the staff to know that there's places to go up and get advance on what they're doing. I had a little bit of concern about the outside candidate, that he was really into the area for fishing, and he'd been on 300 lakes in Aiken. I'm figuring out, how can you do your job if you're on 300 lakes in Aiken and if you're spending all your time fishing? So I would like the idea of promoting from within if we can.
So, but what are we going to gain by doing that? Then we're going to have to do this process all again.
You would be basically hiring a second person, that's true. That employee, if you hire from within, is already here. Don't have any changeover. They have 8 years of experience dealing with our contractors and our people, and have done excellent work.
I did note that when we interviewed the outside candidate, that he did, like John said, make references to the preference to be out of the office. He didn't like desk work. And I was a little bit concerned. He tended to, he was trying to make a good impression, but I just hope he doesn't talk too much to customers at the desk, and try to put himself in a good place. So, and I know that he has experience. I don't know that he's been a manager. Either the inside candidate hasn't got a manager, but I would be inclined to promote from within. I hate to lose a good employee. They're not easy to come by. And, you know, depending on what we do decide, there could be an opportunity to offer the backup job if we do promote from within to him.
Is there a reason that you think we will lose the other candidate if we don't go with the internal one?
Well, it's disappointing. I don't know any specifics, but the interview went well. She has done a great job for the city. She's quick. She's efficient. She has a great memory. She watched John. And, you know, it's a positive thing for employees when you can do that, to give them more opportunity. So that's, and we won't lose a beat at all with that. I just fear that she would leave, that's all.
Do you think that the two candidates, because one likes to work in the field and the other one is pretty good in the office and organizing things, might complement each other?
It could, yes.
I mean, that was kind of my feeling about.
Just for the council's information, one thing you should know is most of the work for that position is in the office. The external work is pretty much limited to site visits. So the lion's share, I would estimate roughly 75 to 80% of the work is inside the office and on the phone and waiting on customers at the front desk.
I'm not sure that that's the way it should be, but I think if we had a candidate that was out in the field looking at stuff, it might be a benefit to us. But Aaron, Marcia, what questions, comments do you have?
I think a couple of comments on what I observed from the interviews and know of one of the candidates. The one candidate, internal, is very much an asset to this city. Very strong asset, is smart, quick to learn, willing to go take education classes as available, and progress himself, and has proven himself for 8-9 years to us. One of my concerns is, while is educated, the education is in an entirely different area than what is working at today. Has 8-9 years of experience, but doesn't have that educational background to fall into. The other candidate has the educational background, plus has the related education as well, which is engineering. And I have no idea their strength. I have no idea on any of those. What I got from the fishing thing is that he used it as a tool, I would hope on his own time, not on company time, but is used it as a tool to look at the homes, what was built, what was done, what appeared to be accessible, what was allowed for by Aiken County as neighboring experience. But my concern is prone to moving around, and two, I'm not sure we have, being confined to the city might be a confinement to them. And that, I see that as a detriment. Okay, so I'm just giving you my opinion of the two of them.
Well, I thought they both interviewed well, but I guess I would go with the one candidate has more education, more experience. He's dealt with septic systems. He seemed to value customer service and respect. He's been in community development for 15 years. He has taken extra education with the architecture, landscape architecture. I feel like he's a very good candidate, and I don't think his fishing comments were to be more relaxed in the interview and make him more personable. I don't think he's going to be out there fishing every day. And if he is, then I guess goodbye. So, and I would hope that we wouldn't lose the other candidate if we did go this way. That's their option, if that's what they want to do. We can't be afraid to hire a good candidate just because staff might be upset. I mean, the staff is not hiring the candidate, and we will put them on, we would put the candidate, even internal, on probation for the 6 months or whatever the union decides. Union's kind of heavy-handed here, but, so my thought is that the education experience, his interview, good.
So the feeling I'm getting here is that it's going to be another 3-2 vote, and I hate to lose a good candidate. Is there a way that we could hire them both and maybe not put a label on them in order to not lose a good candidate? We need 2 people there, there's no question about that. And maybe do a 6-month review and then come back here and decide if we need to label them differently than what they are.
Well, you'll have to come back 6 months from now anyway, because
Yeah,
we're going to
do
put
a
them on
review.
probation.
Yeah.
And then the decision's made whether they're doing the job we want them to do or not.
I mean, our goal is to come out here and hire another replacement. We need 2 people there. Now we've got 2 good candidates. I hate to lose either one of them. So maybe we should hire them both.
We should hire the best fit for the position and move forward, embracing the future and not stuck in the past.
Okay, I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm going to make a motion to hire both of them.
Well, we already have one of them's an employee. And I would say to answer your question and concern, it's a good one. I would think that we decide who we want to hire for the top job. And depending on how that goes, if the inside candidate moves to that position, I would certainly recommend that we look at hiring the other candidate to replace her.
But how at this time can we decide who the best candidate is for the lead position? We know one, we don't know the other. And if we had a 6-month performance period to take a look at it.
Well, that's, we have to do one step first, and that's decide who's going to get the admin position, the senior position.
So just as a reminder to the council, the position that you've posted and that you're trying to determine is the planning and zoning administrator position. Should you decide to do something different than that, you're really not in a position to say, well, let's hire them both and see what happens. You already have an employee that's in the AFSCME union. If that position becomes vacant, you'll need to post that with the posting requirements and make that available to all interested parties, just like we did this one. So the decision you're making is whether or not to hire the one of the 2 candidates that applied for the open position.
Dave, I write your motion wasn't seconded yet, correct?
Yes, it was not.
All right, do we let it drop or do we wait for a second?
I consider that dead for the lack of a second.
So I would make a motion that we hire the outside candidate for planning and zoning director.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, can you read that motion again, Shar?
To hire the outside candidate for the planning administrator position.
Okay.
Can we say, can you use the name in there? Because some people might
To
not.
hire Peter Ganson.
I accept the modification.
Okay, any other discussion on it? Go ahead, Shar.
Siebert Bowles,
Yes.
Herzog,
No.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Good. I feel like we should talk about retention and whatever. I certainly don't want to see the other one leave.
I don't think that's on our plate now. I would hope that that doesn't occur, but we'll deal with that if it happens.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. The rest of the council can chime in if they don't think that's right.
Okay, so let's move on to number 3, review, what?
Before you do that, we should agree on what would you like the offer be extended? Would you like a recommendation for an offer to extend to
Yes.
this person for that?
Yes.
Yeah, I assume that's what we did, but,
Well, we didn't talk about that. We just decided to hire them, to offer them the position, but we need to know what we're going to pay them.
All we did was authorize the range, Dave,
so now we got to discuss
what we'll offer.
salary.
So just for your reference, the range for that position was determined to be 64,000 to 84,000, which would give you a midpoint of 74,000. My recommendation to bring forward would be to offer the position at 70,000 with 12 days of vacation and 5 days of sick leave to start out with.
What do they usually start for vacation? Just interested. I know I could look in the handbook,
1
but
week.
1 week.
I think in this case, you're hiring an experienced person. You're going to need to provide something to entice them to leave their current position.
Yep, I agree. You can't start them out on 1 week. That's not going to work. You won't.
Make a motion that we accept Mike Linus's recommendation for what to offer Peter.
I'll second that.
And that motion, just to clarify, is 70,000 salary and a 12-day vacation to start?
12 days of vacation and 5 days of sick leave.
Yeah, and 6 months probation?
Correct.
Yeah.
Do
Okay,
you-
sure.
Do you prorate the sick leave based on, you get 12 days a year if he starts after his 6 months, then he would be at that? Or can he accrue those 6 days after 6 months and have those sick days?
I think in this case, because it's still January, you would leave it at 12 days.
But he can't take,
He has to earn them
yes.
ratably over the year.
He won't have 12 days until he gets past his 6-month probation. He can't accrue them till after his 6-month probation. That's what it reads in, I think, the handbook or the union contract. I can't remember which one said it, but that they can't take vacation and sick time until they've passed their probation. I believe. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, but I'm pretty sure that that's the way it reads.
Anybody have an opinion on that?
I would say not to do that unless it's required. That's just a detriment to hiring somebody.
I'm not trying to take them away. I'm just trying to, you're starting them out with
Right, they would earn a
six
day a
sick
month.
days. And I don't think we should be saying when he starts in January that he can only have six sick days this year.
Well, what the request was to start the sick day leave bank at 5 days, right off the bat.
Well, so he can use it before,
If he's sick, he'd have something
Yeah.
to use, because he wouldn't have accrued that much vacation. Vacation, let's say the person worked a certain period, you would prorate the vacation for the time that they work, just like you would anybody else.
Maybe it was just vacation.
But-
I'm probably wrong,
In
so.
my opinion, it'd be unreasonable to say, come work for me we're not going to provide you a day of vacation and hope you don't get sick. Get sick on day 1 on month 7. That wouldn't be reasonable.
And prorate the vacation days, I think, is a good way to do it, too.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to attract a candidate. That's our goal.
Right.
I'm not trying to, I'm trying to get him his 12 days for the year.
Okay, so any
The
other?
other aspect, Mike, the other aspect, I hope you talk to him about what's going on with respect to union. Because I'm sure he doesn't know anything about that.
We'll have that discussion now that we have a candidate for an offer.
Right.
Okay, anybody else?
Herzog.
Yes.
Nevin.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Schrupp.
Yes?
Siebert Bowles.
Yes.
Okay, are we done with that?
I'm done with it.
Looks like it. Okay, review decision to change banks. At the last regular council meeting, I made a motion to change banks. Reason is, we were currently 20 to 25 years at the existing bank, and I kind of felt that we should spread it around town. Looking back, maybe I made an error, and maybe we should put it out for bids to all of the local banks to see which one has got interest. I guess I'll leave it at that and open it up for discussion.
Did you contact the banks, Shar? I had asked if we could have additional information to make that decision, whether the banks were interested or not.
Yeah, I did. I wasn't able to get a hold of him. I did not.
You didn't contact them then? Well, I think we need to contact the banks.
Well, the other way to
Oh.
look at it is that last time the decision was made to stay with Franson was it 25 years ago, Mike, or was it more recent?
I believe it was more recent. We went through a process where we laid everything out for each bank and evaluated their services and came back and said, what's the best fit for how we do business? Normally, when you change banks, that discussion takes place before there's a spur-of-the-moment recommendation. I just want to let you know that never happened. When you do make changes like that, there's normally a discussion, what's working, what's not working. Are we getting the best deal? Should we be looking outside, or should we widen our scope? So if you want that discussion to take place, then what I would recommend you do is you identify the banks you want us to have that discussion with. We'll come back and provide the information, services, fees, all of that information, and you can make an informed decision.
Just so people know, there's, I don't know what the fees are at the banks and stuff, but you throw all the cash into the 4M fund anyway, it goes out of town. The investments. Mike, I'm talking to you, yeah.
Yeah, I know you are. And the same occurs when you invest through a local bank. You use a third-party investment company, whether it's in Dallas or Minneapolis or San
Yes.
Francisco or New York.
Yeah, I realize that,
the
but I'm just
difference
saying, if you're
between-
throwing everything into the 4M fund, because they're an official depository, and we have not named anybody else, so it's the 4M fund, and whatever bank that we choose to be the official depository.
My only thought is there's a lot of hassle when you change banks, you change checks, you change stuff, and as I understand it right now, Franson Bank only charges us pass-through charges that they get, and that there's no other fees for us. Granted, they make money on deposits that are there, but right now, they're giving us what I would consider a relatively good deal, and they were picked when the last time the city looked at what bank to use because they had the best services, and as far as I know, the services have been great.
I'm not saying that they haven't been, I'm just saying that since this came up, I think we should contact every bank and find out if they're interested or not. And I don't know what the problem is with that. Make a call, are you interested? Email yes, no, or what you have to offer, and put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Well, do we have any complaints from the staff about the current bank?
I'm not aware of any.
I think the whole idea is, like Dave said, I didn't know about this at the meeting anyway, and it sounded logical to me if we've been at one bank for 25 years to give the opportunity to the other banks if they want it. If they don't want it, we're fine. Let's just keep moving forward with Franson Bank then. There are no problems with Franson Bank. This is just the perception that we give businesses the equal opportunity that are in town, and that's all there is to it. There is no hidden agenda or anything else that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I second that, Marcia. There is no agenda. It's just, we live in a small town. It's been there 20, 25 years. Give somebody else a chance. I mean, and I think we should do that in all services that we request from town. We should shop local, as they call it, you know? And maybe nobody will want it, and that's fine. Ask them. Nobody wants it, we'll leave it there. But at least the opportunity was given out to them.
But Dave, when we have something like this going on, can I ask you to put it on an agenda as a discussion item so the whole council has an opportunity to discuss it instead of dropping it with no warning, no nothing? I'm asking that of you.
Okay, I just thought that was policy. First of the year, we redo things or don't, and
Well,
newspapers or whatever they are.
Significant, I think, goes beyond just unless it's a renewal, if you want to change, then I think it has to go to a discussion item, something this significant.
Okay.
Okay?
I
Thank you.
don't know that it is that significant, really, other than a few days of changing numbers, but
You know, and that's why we encourage you to have that discussion with staff, so we're both on the same page. Because it is more than just changing numbers, Mr. Mayor.
okay. So, Marcia, do you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that the city clerk contacts each bank in the community and find out if they have any interest in being the city's official depository. And I don't know what other questions you ask, what they have to offer, what are their fees, and then we can make some comparisons.
Okay, I'll second that for you, Marcia, and I'll just add, if, you know, like we did with the applicant, why should we hire you? Why should we change banks? If there's any services or any support that they could give us.
Do we want to just do a blanket like that, or do we want an RFP type of a request? Which one?
Well, I don't know, but I would think an email, and if they show some interest in it, then,
Then do the RFP?
yeah, I don't know what the
I'm fine
procedure
with
is.
that.
Do I do only banks in Cross Lake? Do I do banks in Emily, Pequot? How far do I go?
Just Cross Lake is my motion.
Cross Lake.
Just the
Okay.
community. My motion was
You-
to contact the banks in the community.
Right.
The
Okay,
community of Cross Lake, the city of Cross Lake.
just wanted to clarify.
Yep. Anybody else? All right, Shar, you got a motion in a second?
Yes. Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp,
Yes?
Siebert Bowles,
Yes,
Herzog.
Yes.
Okay, is there anything else with that? Good. Number 4, discuss the need for employees to keep log sheets. At the last council meeting, I'm not even sure how it came up. How did it come up?
It came up through finance.
that
Had
was,
to change the
that was me because I wanted the snow removal on the trails
Oh, yeah.
logged because that's not a mandatory thing to do, and we've not done it before, and I wanted the costs associated with those trails and the snow removal. So that's where that all came to play.
And I believe at the end of the meeting, we left it with Ted to look into Yeah, if you want to come up, Ted, and join into this.
At the end of the meeting, I know this is fresh in my mind because I just finished those minutes last night. You asked Aaron to schedule another meeting to discuss this.
That's what this is.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but Ted is one that's
But
gonna-
TJ had said that he keeps track of all the guys, and I believe my comment was follow TJ's lead, you know? I mean, we don't need to know how many quarts of gas you use to go and get the mail or whatever, but in general, I think, I would really love to look at the Public Works Department and say 30% of it is dedicated to the sewer and 30% is dedicated to road, you know, whatever. I mean, and right now, we have 8 hours, nothing, no tracking.
Yes.
So,
Right now, we've been keeping track of West Shore and the 1 and 3. We're about 9 hours for the season. That's where we're at right now. Just keeping track of, general, when the snow blower or a pickup plow's gone out there and cleaned.
okay, but I would like to see on a daily basis,
It's
just
all-
like,
It's all on similar to what TJ's is. It's just keeping track of it where we're going, so.
So do you submit that at payroll time so that she can code it correctly to the right department?
No, we don't have a code for it to go to. There's no category for it to go to. It's,
And that's what I've been asking for the last couple of months, that we establish a snow removal expenditure account for trails. I can't seem to get it done, but it's not difficult. On a time sheet, you must have the date, and you worked 8 hours, right?
we have a date and we have 8 hours, half hour for lunch, and that's what's on there.
Okay, so it would not be a hardship for you to put down 2 hours went towards snow removal of the trail?
You just gotta have a category so that she can code it against.
Okay,
You gotta break those, you gotta break all those, I mean, I've done this with the other cities I work for. And I had 20-some categories, and every day we'd break out 2 hours for this, and an hour for this, and an hour for that. But you gotta have all those categories and all that developed in your system.
on the sheet and into the system.
In the
And I've been
payroll
trying to get it into the system, but it seems to be a hardship there, too. I will just say that it shouldn't be a hardship. It's like a minute of your time or 2 minutes of your time at the end of the day. I worked 2 hours in the sewer plant, I did 2 hours on the trail, and the rest was streets or whatever else you're doing.
Yep, and that's,
It's not a hardship.
I didn't say it is, but that's what I'm used to doing in my other communities I work for. When I came here, this is the system we had, and that's what we've gone with the whole
Yeah.
time, so.
I don't believe in percentages, but then I dealt with a lot of utilities in one community. We had gas, electric, water, sewer, storm, and they had to allocate their time to each one. They didn't say in at 7:15, out at 9:15. At the end of the day, they said, okay, I spent 2 hours at the water treatment plant, and the rest of the day was on leak detection, gas meters, or maybe 4 hours of gas, 2 hours of electric, 2 hours of snow removal. And they broke it down between snow removal on streets and maintenance on streets, and actually capital outlay on streets. So I know it can be done. It's not a time-consuming thing. It's a couple of minutes at the end of the day when you bring back that pickup to the garage. Those sheets should be sitting there, and you can fill them out, and it's a matter of a minute or two.
They do them on a computer, you just gotta have it set up on the computer, and
Right.
really simple.
Exactly.
It's,
So I think.
from what I've heard, it sounds like they are doing the tracking. You know, we
Just
really
not reporting
haven't
it.
talked in depth of where we end and start the tracking, but maybe we need to summarize that. I think the question that you want is, you want it in some system, and I don't know if it's worth it to put it in the system or put it on an Excel sheet that once a week it's updated, and there you got your numbers. So I don't know anything about our system. I don't
think
know
if you-
what it
Well,
all
I can answer
might-
that. I think
Well-
if you want that level of detail, which it kind of sounds like you do, you know, instead of having everything coded to streets like it is now, you would just create that department so you can have the same account coding with the department directing where it goes. So you'd create the trails, you'd create the snow removal, you know, that's relatively easy to do. What you'd change, you already have sewers set up, so we already have those account codes. It's a change from how we budgeted and how we've done things. So your budget will be zero for those items because we don't know how much time is being spent there. So I would suggest that if you want to keep track of how much time we spend snow plowing, that we create the snow removal department or use the department that already exists and just track your time that way by individual. That's relatively easy because those accounts are set up. We just have to set up the department.
Yes.
And I did try, I know there's no budget for snow removal on trails, but I tried to move some money over there, and no one would go along with it.
I have worked places where I had to keep exact timesheets, log sheets, because money was coming from different federal accounts, et cetera. It's all doable, but it all takes time. Thank you.
Right. So why don't we decide what we wanted them to track so there's no misunderstanding? So we want to have somebody track the trails. Are we going to go West Shore Trail and Daggett Pine Trail? Is that how detailed we
Well,
want to go?
Daggett Pine is the Parks Department. West Shore is Public Works.
Yes, I understand that, but I'm trying to get everybody to say, these are the things we're going to track. West Shore Trail, that's one of them I would suggest. Daggett Pine Trail, that's another one. You want them to track how many hours they groom this cross-country ski trail, yes or no?
I would say yes. I mean, if that's not too much, you know, I don't want to do it. But it would be nice to know where we're spending our resources. What are we doing?
So all I'm trying to do is get it out of everybody here. What are the details that we want to see? And
I'd like
don't be
to see
afraid to say.
maintenance, you know? I mean, that's,
That's a legit cost.
yeah, how much does it cost
Yeah,
us to
it's
keep
a good
things
one.
going?
Mowing the lawn in Public Works, mowing the lawn in Park and Rec. I'm just throwing out some ideas. I don't know.
Yeah, and I would extend that to you, Ted, and TJ, or whoever, but I mean, if you see a category that is kind of outstanding, cemetery, is that worthwhile to spend time, we mow the grass there?
That's
But,
a big item.
yeah, I mean.
Sure.
The
Good
big
idea.
items, and then you're gonna do it on an individual basis or a group basis?
Well, I would do it as each employee. I mean, if
Yeah,
Joe did this and Nate did this and Seth did this and
I'll tell you what, it'll give us a picture of what's going on, because unless we see your plow trucks on the road, we don't know what's going on. Nobody does, so it'd be great, you know?
Can I ask Marcia a question? Are you looking to have the finance system changed, or are you looking for log sheets? There's a big difference.
I'm looking for log sheets in order to add that expenditure code to the finance. They're hand in hand. You give me you give the log sheet to, I believe Shar does the deal, and then she will code them out to the correct expenditure code.
Okay. Because I didn't understand.
No, I'm trying to get that money moved to snow removal trails, the budget items, that 6,000, that 25,000, put in there, but I can't seem to get the city council to go along with that. So we would have a budget allocation to work with. We don't need the 25,000 in engineering because the engineering goes into each individual project, and we don't need that double 6,000 fines and fees that's been pointed out. It's in the general fund and in the police fund, and we never use it in the general fund. So I would like to see that budget allocation done, and I would like to see that there are at least the snow removal on trails tracked in the financial statement and that budget. sitting there so that we see it and we can make a decision. We can't make a decision on whether we want to plow streets. That's a given. We have to do that. We have to mow lawns, but we don't have to remove snow from the trails. So that's why we're trying to get a handle on it. We've not done it before. I just want the costs associated with it.
Here's another big one for you, Marcia. 2 years ago, is it 2 years ago, the last St. Patty's Day parade? We did 64 hours snow removal for the parade.
Well, and that is a good one, Ted, you know, I mean.
That's a big item.
And that should go towards, street expenditures because it's not really snow removal otherwise. I mean, I don't know how you want to look at that. St. Patrick's Day parade is unbelievable to me. When I first saw the first St. Patrick's Day parade, I thought, oh, wow.
Can we get back on track here? The
Yeah,
discussion item
yeah.
is need for employees to keep log sheets.
Second.
Okay,
Can I make a
discussion is-
comment?
Do you
I would
understand?
recommend,
Yeah.
I would recommend, if we're commenting now, I would recommend that for this year, we keep track of this through the system, but we don't mess with our budget at this time. And we get to the end of the year and we look at these numbers, you're gonna end up with a bunch of hours by categories. And the one thing that's gonna make the cost go, maybe you can just decide on hours, but you have to kind of decide on how much does it cost us an hour to do these things to come up with the real cost. So I think for now, I think they, being the staff, could set this up. They could come back to us with a list of what they want, what they think we should see. And then maybe they'll report it every week and summarize it. And then maybe we can get a summary of these certain items, maybe once a month, if you want to know what's going on. But I don't think we should mess with our finances. The documents that we created and approved at the end of December, now we can implement these changes into next year.
Well, Dave, the budget adjustments are normally done whenever you need to do them. So
Well,
I don't
I'm
have a
just saying
problem with
it's
that,
easier
and
just to
I would
keep
really
it the
like
way
to
it
see
is
it.
right now.
Well, I'd like to see it on the financial statement.
Well, then you should transfer it from Ted and TJ's budget because that's where the money sits today. And we should utilize the money so we know where it's coming from and not move it from other entities.
Okay, the 25,000 is in Public Works under engineering, and we could move that to trails snow removal. And it's in the same department.
Marcia, this is not an agenda item for the special meeting. If you want to do that, I think we need to put it on a council meeting and discuss. It's not on the item, it's not on the
But
agenda.
it's part of the discuss the deeds for log sheets.
To me, that's not a log sheet issue, it's a finance issue. I'm not against doing it, I'm just saying, let's figure out what we really want to do, but it's not really on the agenda for today.
So it sounds like you want to keep track of how much does it take to plow the streets and the trails, right?
And the sewer and the maintenance.
We already know what it
and the-
costs to do the sewer and the maintenance in the sewer. We're already doing that. So what you're
I'd
really.
like to know how much time we spend at the sewer, all the employees. I'd like to know what percentage of our time is allocated for that.
Because right now you put Ted's whole salary in there and don't account for any time at the sewer. It's just Ted's salary.
The approach that was taken quite a few years ago was they looked at that and they added up the administration at that time added up the time, the total salaries for streets and sewers, and they came out with basically the same number, that if they put Ted in the sewer and the rest of the staff in the Public Works Department, you got the same answer. It was just how you wanted to divvy that up. You got the same number when you got to the end of the day. So what we can do in our finance system is we can set up those items you want to track as departments. They're already established in the uniform chart of accounts, and we can just extend those with the same job codes we already have. It's just a little more tracking, quite a bit more tracking on the payroll side of things. I would suggest you leave the budget like it is for now. And as you get some track, some background in there and some real live information, then you can make a budget decision once you know what it's actually costing you to do that. And one thing you need to keep in mind with that too is a lot of these things you're asking to be tracked will be weather dependent, right? If you're looking at snow removal,
Everything.
that's weather dependent. I think everybody knows that if it snows, the streets get plowed. It's just a matter of where people are spending their time. And then that's a policy decision from the council. You know, if you remember, we've had a lot of requests for people. We like to get out and walk on the trails. Why can't you plow them? And so that's the West Shore Drive incident. So if you keep it at the departmental level, you can have that same department in multiple funds, meaning the general fund and the utility fund, so you can know where you're spending that effort.
Can we repeat the motion?
Yes, there's a first and a second on keeping log sheets. John made a motion to do log sheets, and I second it. So there's got to
Okay,
be a
so,
vote.
and we will let the staff decide what categories to keep track of.
I think we've made
I
it
have
pretty
no
clear.
record of a motion.
John, you made the motion, right?
No.
No? Okay, we'll make a motion.
I'm pretty confident that, John, you said I make a motion that they keep log sheets, and I second it. Is that what the audience heard? Okay.
Well, let's just make another motion. Do you want me to make it, or do you want to make it, or? I make a motion,
It's on the floor, but, you know,
Well, that's all right. Take it off the floor and make a new one.
okay, so I just make a motion that we ask the departments to keep track of their time on different tasks in the city and report it back, you know, maybe on a monthly thing or something, give us an idea. The purpose of this is just to get an idea of how much time we spend on each deal. And then maybe if you can come back at the next council meeting, Ted, and say, here's what we're doing. Okay? Okay, that's my motion.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion on it?
I still, are we going to bring these costs associated with this to the financial statement? That's my big thing.
Well, certainly over time.
No, not over time. I
How do
want to
we
do it
know-
now.
How do we know how to do it now, other than we could guess?
Well, if he's going to do a log sheet, he's going to bring those those log sheets into the city clerk to do payroll, and she can code them accordingly to where they spent their time.
I agree, Marcia, but that is going to develop. We
No,
don't
that's
have
not, that's, tomorrow you start log sheets.
But I think at the moment, we're
So-
still
so-
debating whether we're actually going to do the trails next year. I thought that was
Well,
still
the
an
trails
open
is one
discussion.
part of this. The trails is not the,
Great, the financial end of it, then you got that stuff sitting there for how many years?
You can
Forever.
delete.
Well, but, I mean,
So what if you did this? I mean, it sounds like the three things you want to keep track of are streets, snow plowing, trails, and we're already keeping track of the sewer. I mean, is that what you want to keep track of separately?
But the sewer, you're just plopping his entire salary into sewer.
That's correct, and the log
Okay.
sheets would change that. That would be the basis
Okay.
for making that
I-
change.
Okay.
so the
mean,
log
that-
sheets
that's-
would be,
so I
the sewer
provided you
would be a log sheet
process to
and
do that.
maintenance, I think.
To me, there would be probably three categories in the sewer. Your lift stations, and that would include collection
I
system.
don't know that you have to break the sewer down into that, but go ahead. I'm
But
sorry.
yeah, it's legit.
Yeah.
And then the other one would be sewer plant operations, and the other one would be sewer plant maintenance. Same thing with public works. There's snow plowing, there's maintenance of the equipment and facilities, there's trails, there's mowing, and we'll just break it down. We'll have a calendar on the one side where they fill in their thing, we'll have a bunch of categories across the top, and they just put half hour, whatever it took to do that job.
Yeah,
I would suggest you keep it really simple for right now.
Yes, it was going to be pretty basic until we get farther into it.
But so if you could come back at the next meeting, kind of outline what you're doing, you know, this, we can change this as time goes on or
And
whatever.
TJ already has a sheet that he's worked up.
Yeah.
We're just going to modify it a little bit and make it fit for us.
Thank
Sounds
you
good.
for your willingness to cooperate.
I take direction from this body, and you give me direction, I'm going to go with that direction.
Okay, so I believe we have a motion and a second, and that still stands. We didn't adjust that. Oh,
Correct.
Eric wants to.
Quick question?
Sure.
You said employees. Are we talking public works? And if we're gonna talk police department, then we gotta figure out, I don't know, I'm confused. The motion is employees.
Yeah, I don't know that, well, I don't really have a desire to get into the police right now.
Says please.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming the shifts are covered and,
In other words, no.
No.
yeah,
Okay, so public works and parks and rec.
yeah. Okay, Shar, is that clear enough for you? Okay, go ahead.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp,
Yes.
Siebert Bowles,
Yes.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin.
Yes. Okay, in the closing, we're just about done here, but Shar sent this magazine on here, and I haven't had a chance to read it, but in the back there is the city liable if its snowplow damages a mailbox? So I'm gonna leave that open if anybody wants to read it. Other than that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, go ahead, Shar.
Schrupp,
Yes.
Siebert Bowles,
Yes.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.